I'm telling you right now, that broke version of you is loud. That broke version of you is constantly telling yourself all of these things that reinforces its identity, that keeps you broke. It's the same version of you that's fat, that constantly gives you advice, constantly gives you different thought processes every single time to keep doing the same shit over and over and over and over and over again. And nothing ever stops. And you're trying to fit into this new version of yourself. You're trying to actually become this version of yourself. But the old identity, that broke version of you keeps talking, keeps telling you, you should be doing this. No, you should be doing that. You should be sleeping a lot. You should be going out and partying all the time. You should be watching TV all day. You should be doing this. You should be doing all these things that are going to keep you broke, because that's what validates its identity. That's what validates its existence. And the big thing you have to understand is that identity is a series of thoughts, beliefs, emotions, and actions. Those are the four things that make identities, right? Why is this important? Because let's say you're not making that much money at all, or maybe you're making $1,000, $2,000 a month, and your goal is to hit $10,000 a month. Well, the new identity of you that's hitting the $10,000 a month is going to talk to you very differently than the person who's making $1,000, $2,000 a month that's stuck in the job that they don't want. All of the internal thought processes that you're going to accept, which turn into your beliefs, are going to be different. Because that's what's going to allow for you to make different actions that actually yield the result. I'm telling you, making money is not hard. But you know what is hard? Assuming a new identity that's going to even give you the permission to make that money. That's where everybody messes up. That's why people are broke. It's the same with fitness. It's the new identity that you have to have that actually creates the change, that creates the actions. All the thoughts that you have. You see someone eating bullshit, you can say no. You see someone doing some shit that doesn't make sense for your goals, you can say no. You start to eat healthy. You start to say yes to the foods that make sense for your goals. You start to say yes to going to the gym consistently. You start to say no to the friends that are taking away from your goals. That is all identity shifting. But that broke version of you, that fat version of you, that skinny, scrawny version of you needs to shut the fuck up. And you have to shut it up, because if you don't, it's going to keep driving you to the same exact place that you're in. You're going to be making the same exact money that you always make, if not worse, because it feeds off of being broke. It feeds off of mediocrity. It feeds off of you not pushing your comfort zone. It feeds off of you, next day I'll do this, next day I'll do this, next day I'll do this. It feeds off of that. So you got to be able to break that thought process and be able to reject all of those thoughts. I keep telling y'all this, and I might be telling y'all this with every video, but your thoughts are not you. Your thoughts are merely broadcast transmissions that you either accept or you reject. And whether you accept it or reject it defines the belief. And then when you actually go with the belief that that thought is true, then you go into an emotion that it stimulates. And then from that emotion, you create an action. You do something based on that emotion. Emotions are what cause actions, and you can manipulate that by going back into the thought loop and changing the thoughts that you accept. If you're letting the broke version of you talk, you're letting those negative thoughts that keep you broke there. You're literally, every single time you make some money, you always have to trick it off. You always have to spend all of it. Every single time you may start a new business, you get a new client. You have to just sabotage the whole thing. Maybe on the sales call, you have to be a nice guy and you have to say, well, you don't really have to buy this. I think you're always going to sabotage that moment where the new version of you wants to shine, that new identity, but you stick with that old identity because it makes you comfortable, because it wants to stay in the same position. So you'll always self-sabotage. You'll always not achieve your goals. You have all these tasks that you know you're supposed to do that are needle-moving tasks to make you money. But you reject doing those tasks. Even if you're working a 9-to-5, forget just entrepreneurship. You're at your job. Everybody wants a pay raise. Well, the pay raise, to get that, you have to have a new identity of yourself that you embody, that even shows your boss that you're worthy enough to be able to get that new pay raise or that new position that you're looking for. That's all, everything revolves around this shit, fellas. I'm not just making this shit up. Like, this is all real. And if you can embody this shit, I'm telling you right now, you will never be broke. And if you do find yourself slipping up and getting broke again, it's because you're letting that broke version of you talk, and it needs to shut the fuck up. That's the biggest thing. So the more that you can start to adapt to that, the more that you can start to do these things and actually create these new thought loops that actually give you the new identity that you really, really want, or align with that new identity that you really, really want, everything else makes a lot of sense. Otherwise, everything won't be making sense. You're just going to keep being in this spiral consistently. You will never actually see change. You'll constantly be in a vortex, a cycle of poverty, a cycle of being fat, a cycle of all these different things that don't even make sense to you because you keep letting that old version of you keep giving you advice, keep telling you where to go, keep telling you what to do, keep telling you how to act, what to specifically believe in. You let it literally just dictate your entire mind because, again, you have control over your mind. You can decide which version of you allow enter in terms of transmission. And by burning the old version of yourself, you burn those thoughts, which means every time a thought comes in that doesn't align with the actions that you want, aka making more money, aka getting in better shape, aka becoming the man that attracts X amount of X type of woman, etc., every single time that you think of a thought that doesn't align with those goals that you have, whatever that looks like, that's literally every single time that you have to reject it. If the goal doesn't align with that, you reject it. If the goal aligns with it, you keep it and you let it ruminate and you let it just germinate to where it can create actions for you. But a lot of y'all don't want to have it create actions for you. A lot of y'all don't actually want to be the new version of you because it's scary. It's not pretty. It's not something that is comfortable. It's very uncomfortable because it's new. It's nuanced. It has a different way of moving. It has a different way of thinking. It has new world beliefs that may not work with your current world beliefs that society has programmed you to have. So you get really scared to actually get into that new version of yourself. So that identity shift that needs to happen for you to quantum leap and accelerate into your goals, you push it back a little further because you're very, very comfortable with that identity that sits with you now. Because everybody else in society, they know you as that identity. They know you as that person. And you want to be able to keep these relationships, which are bullshit, by the way. You want to be able to keep these relationships. In reality, you need to be dropping these relationships and focusing more on how do I become this new version of myself, this new identity that now attracts other relationships that are better than who I was before. And if the people can understand this new identity that I have and they can move with it, then great. If they can't, they can go kick rocks. And it's the same shit. Most people don't ever understand this, so they constantly stay stuck. They constantly never move forward. And they think the problem is that they don't have enough information. You have as much information as you possibly need readily at your fingertips, but what you don't have is conviction on your new identity, and you keep reverting back to your old one because you've never put together an actual system to make that thing happen and be able to kill off that old version of yourself forever so that you never go back to that baseline. Because with each identity that you have to have a baseline. And I say all this because, man, even for me now, it's cool because the identity that I have now has gotten me to the point that I need to be. But I know that I need to now burn that old one, which is the identity that I have that got me here, to now take on a new one, right? That's going to get me to the next level. With every single jump that you have, you will need to shift your identity even slightly or even dramatically to get to that next, because with each thing that you get, it takes a certain type of person to get it. It takes a certain type of identity to attract that thing. And if you cannot embody that, you're cooked. So that's why for me, it's very important. It's very important that I start to analyze, well, what are some flaws in my identity right now? What is the new version of myself? Who would be attracted to the things that I want, right? Who would be attracted to these specific, maybe it's a certain money goal that I have. Well, who would actually get that type of money? What would they be doing? How would they be acting? How would they be thinking? How would they be believing? What would their worldviews be? What would their emotions be on a regular basis? What would their day-to-day look like? What is everything that they would execute in a day? How much time would they spend on this? What, like literally getting down to the details and figuring out, okay, this is my new thing. This is now me. And merging yourself with that. And every time that broke version of you, or that fat version of you, or that other version of you that you don't want anymore, starts to creep in, you can destroy it. You can literally just remove that thought, remove those thoughts that are trying to invite that identity back into your life so that it can self-sabotage and get you back to baseline. That's where most people mess up. They listen to these thoughts, the thoughts that once drove them, that once got them to operating to at the low capacity that they were in, not being able to get to where they truly desired. They go back to those thoughts because it's nostalgia. It's friendship. You were friends with that old identity. You let that motherfucker talk. You let him tell you every little thing, tell you everything to do that literally did nothing for you. But it was comfortable because you made friends with this. You made peace with the fact that that's who you are. But then deep inside, you know for a fact there is another level of yourself that needs to be unlocked to be able to achieve these goals that you know that you want. You stop making excuses. You stop saying, oh, well, making money is not everything. It's not everything. You stop saying that bullshit because that's what the old version of you says. Oh, it doesn't really matter. Money doesn't really matter in this world. I really care about peace and peace and love and happiness. See, that's what the old version of you said because it was afraid to step into that new version because it's uncomfortable. To make that type of money, it requires discipline. It requires a lot of understanding. It requires a lot of strategy. It requires learning. And the old version of you was a lazy piece of shit, so it didn't really want to even go that route. So it had to convince you otherwise. And now that you finally chose to go the other path, you start to listen to it again because it made you go back to baseline, go back to being comfortable. But I'm willing to bet that a lot of y'all might listen to this and won't actually do it, won't actually go through your thoughts, meta-think and think about your own thoughts and single out all of the thoughts that don't go with your goals and then start to look at how those thoughts turn into beliefs and how those beliefs turn into emotions and how those emotions turn into actions. A lot of y'all won't do it, but there is a very few of you that will actually do this, that will actually see massive transformations. And you might come back here in literally a week and say, bro, everything has changed because literally this shit can be that fast. I've experienced it many times. I've told you guys the stories. Every time I wanted to do something new, I had to shift my identity to be the person who deserved it, to be the person who earned it. And I was always, by default, I always earned the position. I always earned the thing that I was looking for. Anytime that I didn't is because I failed to shift my identity. Because I didn't have a system to do it, but now I created a system and I'm building that out now. I talk a lot about this in my free Telegram, so link will be in the description if you're interested in jumping in and learning a lot more about this stuff, about identity shifting, about figuring out how you can transform your life faster. That doesn't include gimmicks. It doesn't include having to learn a completely new thing. If you already have skills, if you already have done the work of going through and getting all of the information, you're in information overload and you need a system to be able to apply that information to get the final transformation that you truly want, whether it's monetarily, whether it's physically, whether it's anything. Everything will be in there. So link will be in the description for the Telegram. I hope this was valuable for you and I hope that this is something that y'all want to hear a lot more and I can talk more about this. But I'm going through a really big transformation myself if you haven't noticed. So a lot of my content will probably reflect on that. And I'm going to talk more about a lot of different things. But again, it's really dependent on what you guys are and what I see is the most popular and what has the most engagement and what people are looking for the most. That's really why I'm here, is to really solve all of your problems that you have as a man to become the best version of yourself. And this is the one thing that I know for a fact, identity shifting will actually change your entire life. Will I be building an entire like coaching product around this? Yes, I'm doing that in the moment. So that's why if you're interested in that, link will be in the description for Telegram. It's free. You join, stay there, because that's where I'm going to reveal when it actually comes out so that I can start to work with people on this and you will start to see me have some crazy transformations very quickly. Not just physical transformations, but financial transformations, mental transformations, relationship transformations, all of that shit. It's all rooted in this one mechanism that I've finally been able to create to make this happen. So I appreciate y'all. I'm going to catch you on the next video.